Hey guys, this is Rohit, and today, as part of our discussion 7 in economics class, I will be talking about market structures, level of competition, and what it means for businesses and buyers and sellers. Let's do so. Let's get started. So let's start with the definition of a market. So what exactly is a market? A market is a medium where buyers and sellers interact, and buyers buy products that sellers want to sell. So all firms and individuals are willing and able to buy or sell a particular product. What is a market structure that we're talking about? So market structure depends on several attributes and market environment. And by that I mean level of competition, the industry that the market is operating in, the the kind of customers that are operating that market, and the sellers, the attitude of the sellers in that market. All right, so let's talk about market structures and market environment and market attributes that I just talked about in the previous slide. So here are four curves that are basically demand curves for various level of competition and market power. So as you can see in the first curve, this is the demand line or the price line. This is the price and this is the quantity. So as you can see, as the price drops, the demand or the quantity sold increases. But you can see that the change in the price is fairly large, but the quantity sold is not as significant. Now, as the competition increases, as there's more and more firms that are selling similar product, a small change in price produces a fairly larger change in quantity. So if it's a competitive market, and if someone sells a product that usually sells for $5 and a firm offers it for $4.50, he's going to sell a lot more. And this is what he's explained. So this is the same trend over here. Now what's going on over here? So in this case, this is the most competitive market out of the four. As you can see, the price is basically fixed, and the quantity increases or decreases regardless of the change in price. So this is basically saying that if it's a very competitive market, then the price is actually set by the market, and it doesn't change how much consumers are going to buy of a certain product. So an example of this scenario would be your grocery, so your milk, right? So the price of the milk is set by the market because there are so many buyers and sellers in such a competitive market. If I want to get into the milk industry, I will have to sell my milk at this price, or my company has to sell the milk at this price. If I sell it for a price that is more than the market price, I am not going to sell because the consumers are going to go and buy the cheaper milk. Now, if I sell less than the market price to attract customers, okay, you can do that, but in this type of market, there are very small buyers and sellers, so I can only produce so much. So why would I sell something that is selling for $6 at $5 when I'm only going to produce 100 units? So this will lead us into the discussion of perfect competition or perfectly competitive markets. All right, so here are four market structure types, starting with monopoly, oligopoly, monopolistic competition, and perfect competition. Now this is in the increasing order of competition. So in monopoly, there is little or absolutely no competition. In oligopoly, there are a few number of suppliers that are selling a product. Now oligopoly is basically oli, which is a few, and poly is selling. So few sellers selling similar product. Now monopolistic competition is basically a competitive market, but the products are differentiated. So sellers are selling similar product, but they're differentiating their product based on its attributes. So some seller is going to sell a different color. Another seller could sell it with a different size. You could have sellers selling better warranty. to attract customers, or you can have better advertising. So this is a monopolistic competition. Now, a perfect competition is what I just talked about in the previous slide, where the demand is, or the price of a product is actually set by the market. And we will talk about perfect competition here in a second. Okay, so let's talk in detail about perfect competitive market. It's also called as price taker. The firms that operate in perfectly competitive markets are also called as price taker firms because, again, they're taking the price that is set by the market, which is why they're called price taker firms. Now, there are some assumptions for this model to work. And again, this is just a theoretical model, so it doesn't really exist, but it basically acts like a standard to which every industry can then be compared to. So here are the 4 unrealistic assumptions that give this model a lot of strength and make it robust. So you could use it for a good basis for comparison. So the 4 assumptions are: the industry is made up of very large number of small buyers and sellers. So what this is basically saying is, if I'm selling if I'm selling milk, then there are a large number of firms that are also selling milk, and we can only produce small quantities. This is not a monopoly, so I cannot sell all the milk that is being sold in the market. So there's a lot of competition because there's a lot of sellers, and they can only sell so much. So there's a large number of small sellers. And now in terms of buyers, there are very large number of small buyers, and they can only buy so much. They cannot, the one consumer cannot go out and buy all the milk that's available in the market. So that's the first assumption. The second assumption is they're selling a homogeneous product. So a gallon of milk is a gallon of milk, right? An apple is an apple. So I can sell an apple. Someone else in this market can also come in and sell an apple, and it's going to be the same apple. So they're selling a homogeneous product. So that's the second assumption. Now the third assumption is, since this is a very competitive industry, and it's very easy to enter and exit this industry. So the ease of entry and exit to this industry is fairly easy. That's an assumption again. And the fourth assumption is that perfect information is available not just to the sellers, but also to the buyers. So if I'm selling milk and my competitor over there is also selling milk and he drops his price to attract more customers, I'm going to know that right away because I have access to perfect information. And the same goes for the consumers. And so if I'm going out to buy milk and I notice that this seller is selling milk for a cheaper price compared to where I normally buy milk from, I would instantly go and buy milk from there because I have access to perfect information. Again, this is very unrealistic, but this gives robustness to the model and makes it a good model to compare other models with. All right, so let's take a look at the cost curves for the market and the firm that is operating in this perfectly competitive market. So for the market, as the price drops, the demand of the product is going to go up, and then the quantity sold is going to increase. If you look at it from the supplier's perspective, as the price goes up of a commodity, they are willing to produce more and more. So this is the view of the market. Now, what about an individual firm, right, that is operating in this perfectly competitive market? The price, as I said, is set by the market. So D, which is the price line, which is $6, is set by the market, and these are their cost curves. So this is the average total cost for this firm, and this is the marginal total cost for this firm. So again, this is the perspective of the firm, and their price is $6 and it's constant. So even if they're selling 50 units of milk, or they're selling 60 units of milk, they're going to sell it at $6. Okay, so here are a couple points about firm apply in the short run and long run. So in the short run, the marginal cost curve that we just looked at, which is the MC, is above the average variable cost. And in the long run, the long run marginal cost curve is above the long run average cost. I will explain this in the following slides. Okay, so let's take a look at marginal analysis of this price taker firm operating in this perfectly competitive environment. So this is the rule in marginal analysis and cost theory that profit maximization quantity QE occurs at a point where marginal cost equals marginal revenue. Now I will explain this in context to this graph. So this is the marginal cost for this company to produce an additional unit. So how much does it cost to produce that additional 30th unit? It costs $3. As you already know, the marginal cost starts to go down when the firm starts producing units. So, when it's producing the 28th unit, it costs them $4. But then when they produce the 29th unit, it costs them $3.20. And for the 30th unit, it costs them $3. So it goes down at first, and then it continues to go up as they continue production. Now, so at the 30th unit, their marginal cost to produce that additional 30th unit is $3. That is their marginal cost. Now, what about the marginal revenue? Marginal revenue is basically how much revenue that additional unit is going to generate. So in this case, at quantity equals 30, my marginal revenue, if you go all the way up, it is $6. Which is why, in this case, the demand line or the price line is also the marginal revenue line, or the marginal revenue curve. So, for the 30th unit, I'm going to get $6 in revenue. Now, as I produce more and more, for this 45th unit, it's going to cost me somewhere around $5 to produce this 50th unit, but I can still sell it at $6 and still make a profit. But as the marginal cost continues to go up, you can see that at a point, it crosses the marginal revenue curve. So at this point, QE, the marginal cost curve, crosses the marginal revenue curve. So this is the point where you basically break even. So to produce that 60th unit, the marginal cost is $6. The marginal revenue is also $6. So you basically end up breaking even. Now, marginal cost, obviously you have to remember that marginal cost includes both implicit and explicit costs. So some of those implicit costs can be taken off the books and you will still be making some accounting profit. But from pure economics perspective, you will be breaking even because your marginal cost at this level of output is equal to your marginal revenue. So this is the marginal analysis. So what about the 61st unit? So it's going to cost them more than $6 to make that 61st unit. But again, they can only sell it for $6, so they will be making a loss on that 61st unit. So their profit maximizing rate of output is 60 units. Okay, so in the previous slide, we saw that their profit maximization quantity, QE, was 60 units. So how much revenue is this company generating by selling 60 units of product? Price was $6, quantity was 60, so they're basically making 60 times 6, $360 in total revenue. Alright, so what about their total cost in producing those 60 units at $6 that sell at $6 a piece? So as you will notice that in addition to your marginal cost curve and your demand curve or the price line or the MR curve, you also have an AC curve, which basically is the average cost curve or the average total cost curve. So in producing 60 units, the average cost curve intersects this quantity at this point. So if you extrapolate this and check the value on the price axis, it cost them somewhere less than $6. So this is their total cost. So their total cost is, let's for the sake of simplicity, let's say it's $5. So the total cost in producing 60 units of output is 60 times 5, which is 300. So this is their total cost of producing 60 units of output. Okay, so in doing that, how much profit did this company generate by selling their product at $6 a piece when it cost them $5 on average to make that commodity? So their profit is this rectangle, I'm sorry, the big rectangle minus the small rectangle, which is the total revenue minus the total cost. So this is basically their profit, which was $360 minus $300 in total cost, so which is $60. Okay, so here's a scenario where this firm is operating in loss. And you can tell that because the average total cost of producing this item is always above the market price or the marginal revenue that is generated by this product. So at this level of output, the average cost of producing 60 units is, let's say, $7. So 7 times 60 is their average total cost of producing 60 units. However, they can only sell it at the price that is set by the market, which is $6. So they will be making a loss if this is what their average total cost curve looks like. Okay, so as I mentioned in the previous slides, that this is a very competitive market. So a lot of sellers are selling the same product, and they're selling in very small quantities. So at any point in time, a lot of sellers enter the market, and a lot of sellers leave the market, which basically changes the demand curve or the marginal revenue that this product is generating. So when there are a lot of sellers, there is going to be a lot of competition, and the marginal revenue curve is then going to go down. But when there is not as much competition and there are not as many sellers, the marginal cost curve is going to go up, and they can sell it at a comparatively higher price because there's not a lot of competition and there's only a few sellers that are selling this product. So in the long run, as this demand curve or the marginal revenue curve keeps going up and down, so during the time when it's below or when it's above the average total curve, this firm is going to operate in loss, which is where the funds in your bank kick in, and if you can sustain this economic loss for a period of time, you know that some of the other sellers, because of this loss, are going to go out of business, and then the price of this commodity is going to go back up. So you will be back in business, but you have to sustain that period of economic loss if you have savings in your bank. But in the long run, as the price moves up and down, this is the equilibrium that this curve achieves, where you basically make no profit or zero profit. So at this point, you can see in the equilibrium state, the average cost of making 60 units is $6. The average or the marginal revenue of selling 60 units is also $6. So you're not basically making any profit; you're just breaking even. So this is the equilibrium scenario for a perfectly competitive firm. Okay, so moving on to monopolistic competition, where it's not a perfect competition anymore; it's imperfect competition. Again, there are many sellers and there are many buyers. There that are producing not homogeneous but similar product, but there is some form of differentiation. So someone is selling it at a cheaper price, someone is selling a better quality, someone is selling it in a different color. Another seller is selling it in a different size, so on and so forth. So in monopolistic competition, there are many sellers, but their product is different, which is what this text on the screen tells. So the decision made by the firm, by one firm, do not affect other firms in any perceptible way. So in perfect competition, if one firm lowers its price, it doesn't affect other firms because the price is set by the market. And this is sort of true also in the case of monopolistic competition. So going back to the point of product differentiation, um, each firm produces a product that is at least slightly different from those of the other firms, and as a result, rather than being a price taker, each firm faces a downward sloping demand curve. So this is the curve that it looks like for a monopolistic competition. So as you can see, it is not a flat line anymore. It's not just $6, regardless of your differentiation factor. But now, if you change something about your product, if you change your price, if you change something, the demand is going to increase, and this is the curve that it looks like. So if you're selling it at a cheaper price, if you're able to sell it at a cheaper price, you will be able to sell more. All right, so these are the cost curves for a monopolistic competition in the short term. So I will walk you through what each of these curves are and what exactly is on the screen right now. So this is the marginal cost curve. Now, obviously, this is not the complete picture because it goes down at first and then it continues to go up. So this is the marginal cost curve for this firm operating in imperfect competition or monopolistic competitive environment. This is their marginal revenue curve, and this is their demand curve. Now, in our previous example of perfectly competitive market, the demand curve was the same as the marginal revenue curve, which is basically saying if you sell another unit, you're going to make $6. Sell one more, you're going to make another $6. But in this case, it's different. So if you sell another unit, you're going to make a certain amount of money. But if you sell more, that number, the marginal revenue, is not constant. It's not a straight line. It's different. And in mathematical terms, so the slope of this line is half of the slope of this line. I will explain in detail why demand and marginal revenue curves are different for monopolistic competition, or they're not the same for anything other than perfect competition at a later stage. But for this monopolistic competition curve, this is the average total cost. So again, profit maximization quantity occurs at the point where marginal revenue crosses the marginal cost, right? So this is your marginal revenue, this is your marginal cost, it crosses at this point, so this is your QE. So at this point of output, how much profit is the company making, or how much profit or loss, or how is this company doing? So if you go up from this quantity output, the average total cost at this quantity is, let's say, $6. The average, or this, since this is the price line, so 60th unit sells for, let's say, $8. So at this level of output, they're still making a profit because their average, or their marginal revenue, or their demand is more than their average cost, so they're still making a profit. Okay, so let's take a look at how the market responds to profits in monopolistic competitive environment. So this is the demand curve for the industry, and this is the original supply curve, which is S0. So at this level of output, this was the price at which this product was selling. Now, because this was generating a lot of profit, and a lot of other people saw this as a very profitable industry, they entered this industry, and now they're in this industry making this product. Which is why the supply of this product is now shifted, and now they're able to make more. So as a result, the quantity that is being sold in this industry has now gone up, and as a result, the profit that was being generated because of this has gone down. And again, these are short run scenarios, so the profit's going to go up, and then it's going to go down, and some of the competitors are going to go out of market, and then while some of the other sellers will be able to be in business because they have money and savings in the bank. But this is again the short run view. Okay, so now this is the market response to losses. So the company or the industry as a whole was not doing very well. So the original supply curve has now shifted leftward, and now there's a lot less suppliers than there used to be because the profit margins weren't as good, and as a result, because of these suppliers leaving the industry or going out of business, now the supply is moved leftward, which has caused the profit to go back up. So like I mentioned in my previous slide, this supply curve is going to go up and down. It's going to move left and right in the short run, which is why some competitors or some sellers are going to go out of business. Some will be able to sustain that period of economic loss because of savings, but in the long run, it will be zero profit and zero loss. So it'll be a break-even scenario, just like perfect competitive market. Okay, so here's the final picture. As you can see, marginal cost, marginal revenue. This is the profit maximizing quantity. This is the demand, and this is the average total cost curve. Now, like I said, in the long run, some suppliers are going to are going to leave the business, and some will be able to stay in the business because of savings. But in the long run, they're going to just break even. So as you can see in this case, at this level of output, the average total cost of producing these many units is right here, and the average revenue or the marginal revenue of producing these many units is also right here. So basically, it's a zero profit. This is the long-term scenario in a monopolistic competitive environment. Okay, so moving on to monopoly. Monopoly is the polar opposite of perfect competition, which is basically saying that there is absolutely no competition. It's just one firm that is producing all the product in that particular industry, and there are no competitors. Now, there are several reasons why this might happen, but this is the case for monopoly. Now, monopolies exist because of barriers to entry into the market that prevent competition. Some of the examples of monopolies are, your typical utility companies. So if you move into a new house in a new area, you are going to get electricity from just one company. There's just one option. You only have one option to buy your electricity. Same is the case with your gas. And same is the case with your trash company, and so on and so forth. So in the utility market, these companies are operating monopolies. Now, monopolies are two types. One is regulated monopoly, and the second one is unregulated monopoly. But most monopolies in today's business world are regulated. So in the case of the electric company, now the electric company can charge and abuse their monopoly and charge customers excessive prices, but the government steps in and makes sure that they're not doing anything unethical and they're not overcharging their customers. And so the government basically makes sure that this monopoly that they let exist is able to sell to as many customers as possible, but they're not exploiting their customers. So the role of the government here is to make this utility or to make this electricity available to as many people as possible and keep the prices at the minimum. And for the firm, this is going to mean that in the long run, they're barely going to break even. So this is the concept of the monopoly. Okay, so this is the cost curve for a monopolist firm that is making a profit. So here are the marginal cost curves for this firm. This is the marginal revenue, this is the demand, and this is the average total cost curve. So at this level of output, because my marginal cost equals my marginal revenue, this is how much I'm going to produce because this maximizes my profit. I'm going to make, or rather, this is going to cost me, the cost of producing these many units is right here. The price at which I can sell is right here. So this is the profit that this monopoly is making in this business. Okay, so like I mentioned before, since this is a monopoly, there's no competition. So this firm can basically charge their customers as much as they want to. So they can take this price, or they can take this price and increase it all the way up to here, right? And this will maximize their profits. But this is where the government steps in. If it's a regulated monopoly, this is where the government steps in, and they make sure that they're not overcharging the customers. And at this point, they barely break even, which is where QM, which is QE, used to be QE for our previous examples, is right here, which is the average total cost for producing these many units. It's right here. The average price, or the average the revenue that they're going to make, is right here, which is the same as the cost. So at this in this scenario, in the long run, they're barely going to break even. Right. So moving on to our last market structure, which is oligopoly. Oligopoly is basically a few firms that produce most of the market output. Products may or may not be differentiated. Effective entry barriers protect firm profitability, and firm interdependence requires strategic thinking. So an example of oligopoly would be, your rental car market. So when you go to an airport, you only have 4 rental car companies: Enterprise, Avis, Budget, so etc. That you can rent the car from. So these are the oligopolists that are operating in the rental car industry. So another example would be, so if you have a small town where there are only 4 gas stations, right, and they're all across the street. So and they're the only gas stations within the near 100, 150 miles. So in this scenario, the there are only 4 gas stations. So what do you think they're gonna how do you think they're gonna charge their gas? Obviously, every single gas station is gonna charge the same amount of money, because if I'm charging less than what the other gas station is charging across the street, customers are gonna they're gonna come to me, and this person, my 3 other competitors, are then gonna start losing customers. So what is their reaction gonna be? They're going to lower their price to get their customers back. So what this is basically going to do is it's going to incite a price war, and this is a common phenomenon in oligopoly. So let's take a look at what the demand curves and the supply curves for oligopoly looks like. Okay, so it's called the kink demand curve. It has a kink in it, and so in our gas station example, let's say that this is the demand curve of one of the gas stations. Each gas station sells, let's say, 1,000 gallons of gas, and the price that they sell it at is $4. So what if I'm one of the gas station owners, and I think that I'm going to charge more than what the other gas stations are charging, because my gas is, premium, or I offer better service? What's that going to do? Because I'm charging more than what my competitors are charging, my quantity, or how much I'm going to sell, if you extrapolate this, it will be less than what I was previously selling, which is no rocket science. It's just, if you're charging more, the customers are going to go to your competitors and buy their gas for cheaper, especially when they're right across the street. Now, what's going to happen if this gas station says that, well, I'm going to charge them less than $4, I'm going to charge them $3.50 for the gas, and that way all the customers are going to come to me. So if you extrapolate that, you will see that your price has now gone down, and your quantity that you're selling is not a lot more, just a little more, but you have dropped your price. Now, what is that going to mean for other competitors, or the other 3 gas stations? They're also going to drop their price, and they're also going to come down to $3.50, and they're going to get their customers back. So what this is basically doing is, previously they would have all sold their gas for $4, but now because one person lowered their price $3.50, and because the competitors wanted to stay in business, they also had to lower their price, and now they're all selling the gas to their same customers at a lower price than they originally would have. So this is the concept of oligopoly. Okay, so here's an example problem that is going to be part of the discussion. So the total cost for a firm is defined by this function, which is 100 plus 40q plus 5q squared, and the market price. Now this is a perfectly competitive market, so the market sets the price. So the price is set at $160. So what is the profit maximizing quantity for this particular firm? So again, the marginal revenue or the price as set by the market is $160. Now marginal cost, which by definition is the derivative of total cost with respect to Q. So the total cost function here was this, and if you differentiate that, it's going to give you 40 plus 10Q. Now we know that at profit maximizing quantity, MR equals MC. So MR equals MC. So 160 equals 40 plus 10Q. And if you solve that equation, you're going to get 12. Guys, thanks for watching. If you have any comments or questions, you can